Hi, everybody. This is Maya Zahira with Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and we are now starting our free Zoom class for members of our Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group. And today's free class is a book launch. This is a class where we're going to be talking about my third book, The Dark Side of Spiritual Healers, Teachers, and Lightworkers. The subtitle is Abusive, Predatory, and Supernatural Behaviors Behind the Facade of Love and Light. But for short, we just call it The Dark Side of Spiritual Healers. You can find it on Amazon, in Kindle and paperback version. The Audible version will come later. So today's class is really a discussion-focused class. So whether you are here live or you're watching the replay somewhere, I encourage you to participate by sharing a comment in the comment section if you're watching the replay, or using the chat option if you're here live on Zoom. So welcome, everybody. We're going to start with a little bit of reading. I'm going to be reading, today I'll be reading 3 different sections, 3 little snippets for you, and we'll be having some discussion, okay? So we're going to go with the flow. And the more discussion we have, whether it's in the replay comments or those of you who are live, the more discussion we have, the better. So don't hold back, okay? So I'm going to put on my glasses here. I'm going to start off kind of in the middle of the book. I'm going to start off by a little reading, and then I'll do a little teaching, and we'll do a little discussing. So I'm going to start off by reading page 98. This is a story. This is a composite story. What that means is I've worked with a lot of clients over the years who have had very similar patterns of issues. And because client histories, client stories individually are private, I've taken the main themes of the patterns that I've seen with these clients and created composite stories. So these are very realistic stories. This one in particular, very realistic based on all of the things that I've seen. So get comfortable, and it's now story time. Okay. The Dark Phoenix. Let me make sure we're still recording. Okay. The Dark Phoenix. Adam had always wanted to work with a shaman. So when his aunt told him about Phoenix forefeathers, he was intrigued and wanted to learn more. Phoenix had a spiritual center just 3 hours away in a neighboring city. So Adam jumped at the opportunity to attend her upcoming workshop. When he walked into the event, his heart skipped a beat in eager anticipation. The room was infused with a mysterious, sacred ambiance. Dimly lit with candles, the exotic scent of incense smoke filled the air, and soft drumming music played in the background. Participants were sitting on yoga pillows in a semicircle. Then the music was turned up to a loud, pulsing beat as Phoenix Forefeathers entered the room with a commanding, powerful presence. A white woman, she stood tall, wearing a long African patterned robe, large metal jewelry of various Middle Eastern and Asian tribes, and 4 white feathers dangling from her long auburn hair. Her appearance was stunningly beautiful, and it was impossible to discern her age. The music volume was gradually lowered, and Adam could hear Phoenix's jewelry jingle as she sat down in front of her students. Phoenix began by describing her early beginnings growing up in Michigan. She had lived a completely mundane, mainstream lifestyle until, at the age of 22, she took mushrooms and had a vision in which she saw 4 white feathers in the sky. When she came out of the trip, she felt she should become a shaman. So she moved to New Mexico to begin her professional shamanic practice. She explained that she had had various past lives as a shaman in different cultures, and this was where she drew her power, knowledge, and authority. Adam was mesmerized by Phoenix's presentation, and he hung on her every word. She seemed so wise and enlightened, unlike anyone he had ever met. "I am going to take you on a journey," Phoenix announced. "We will be astral traveling together to the lower spiritual realms." A 50-something man in a white tunic and khakis raised his hand. "Is there anything we need to know about keeping ourselves spiritually protected while we're doing this process?" She snapped at him. "It is not my job to keep you safe. The real world is filled with all sorts of dangers, and the same is true about the spiritual realms. What happens to you is up to you." The man nodded. And so Phoenix Four Feathers took them through an intense guided astral journey that lasted about 90 minutes. Afterward, they drank sacred cacao and shared their experiences. A couple of participants reported that they felt really disoriented, dizzy, and nauseous, and one of them ran to the bathroom to throw up. "That is completely normal," Phoenix waved her hand. "They are just integrating the energies of the journey." Adam's journey had been amazing. At first, all he had seen was blackness, but then he saw an image of a forest where the ground opened up and he was sucked down, down, down into the earth. He was then greeted by a huge raven guide who sent messages directly into his mind. Although he could not remember the messages or the rest of his journey, it all felt intense, powerful, and captivating. After the event, he drove back home feeling euphoric about his day. He felt a bit woozy and ungrounded, but he was also exhilarated to have finally found such a cool shaman to guide him in his spiritual pursuits. Unfortunately, things started to turn strange 2 nights later when he was startled out of a deep sleep. Turning his head, he saw that the red light on the alarm clock showed 3:33 a.m. Something didn't feel right. He sat up in bed and blinked, then rubbed his eyes because he was certain that Phoenix Four Feathers had been standing at the foot of his bed. When he looked again, though, no one was there. He shrugged it off and went back to sleep, but the rest of the night was filled with nightmares. This strange activity continued every night for the next 2 weeks until finally Adam decided to tell his aunt about these peculiar happenings. Being a bit older and wiser, she knew that something serious was happening, and that is when she suggested that he contact me for assistance. The first time I met with Adam over Zoom, I was quite concerned over what I was clairvoyantly seeing in his energy field. His aura was completely black, as were the irises of his eyes. He had more than a dozen troublesome entities attached to him, most of which I discerned had attached during the group astral travel journey. And not only that, an alarming amount of his life force energy was missing, having been absorbed by Phoenix during her nightly astral visits to his bedside. Adam and I worked together for several months, getting to the bottom of things, as well as unwinding and repairing the significant negative effects of Phoenix Four Feathers intrusions. Okay, let's talk about this. And remember, whether you're joining, whether you're here live or you are watching the replay somewhere, definitely share your thoughts in the comments section or in the chat if you are here live. I want you to think about, even though you haven't read, maybe you may or may not have read my book yet, where I list all of the red flags for abuse. and predatory spiritual teachers and healers. Whether you've read that section of my book or not, what do you think might be some red flags in that story? What do you think would be some red flags about Phoenix Four Feathers? Okay, what do you think? I'm going to just bring some things to mind. One of the things that a lot of people brush over because they're just so excited with all of the bells and whistles at a spiritual event, like the incense and the cool environment and the way she was dressed and everything. Like all of that is always so compelling that people don't stop to even acknowledge that this person has no training. She has no training in shamanism. I mean, I will point out there are some white, non-indigenous, some genetically non-indigenous people who are shamans in our world today who are highly trained. And I will acknowledge that that is true. But this person here not only was not of indigenous blood, but was like had this hodgepodge of all these different cultures, like total cultural appropriation to the max, which is different than cultural appreciation, right? There are times that we can appreciate other cultures, but she was just this hodgepodge of just like grabbing things from other cultures, claiming, I mean, I do believe in past lives. I know many of us do, but claiming that that's where your training comes from is like, I think that's total bullshit. Like, you need to have something, some kind of training. And this person was a mess. She didn't know how to manage the group. And if she even had had a mentor or some training, got to put my close-up glasses on. We've got some comments coming through. Even if she had had some training at all from a good mentor, they would have taught her at least how, at least something, so that she wouldn't be doing all this nonsense, right? So one of our live participants says one of the red flags was poo-pooing protection. Yeah, you would be shocked, or maybe you wouldn't be shocked, about how many people have this experience. Like I said, this is a composite story, but I promise you, I mean, I've worked with hundreds of people. You know, I think many of you know that I have because you've been following me for years. And I've just worked with person after person after person who's had almost this exact story. Okay. Like they try to speak up about protection and they basically get yelled at by the person. Okay, I got to read these close-up comments. Another red flag. It's not my job to keep you safe. Yikes. Yeah, that the first time I ever heard that, my mouth, my jaw like hit the floor. But I have heard stories like that so many times from participants who came under attack later, and then they ended up coming into my world and I helped counsel them. But they would tell me that they would basically get yelled at and be told, like, your safety is not my job and the world is unsafe anyway, and you just need to keep yourself safe, blah, blah, blah. Your safety is none of my business. I mean, it's just super weird. Very super weird. So that is one of many stories in the book. The book is a combination of stories, but also information that's laid out in a very clear way. And let me see any other comments. Thank you to those of you who are participating today. Oops. Yes, okay. Just I want to give a shout out to the people who are watching, of course, I want to give a shout out to those of you who are here live. Thank you for being here. It's awesome that you're here. I also want to give a shout out to the people who are watching the replay. Many of you will be watching the replay on the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is called Psychic Protection Sanctuary YouTube channel. And I want to point out for those, if you're new to the YouTube channel and you're watching this replay, these are Zoom classes that we offer especially for members of the free Facebook group, Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group. And so only those who join live, those of you who are here live, get to ask me questions directly. Right now, that is the only way that you get access to me unless you're signed up for my academy, Spiritual Empowerment Academy, because I'm very busy supporting them and I don't have time to answer all the questions in the free groups. So the way to ask questions is to join the Facebook group and then join the free monthly Zoom class. Okay. And also for those of you watching on YouTube, just a reminder that we post this Zoom replay just basically as like a wonderful gift out to the world, a gift to the universe. These are not edited. We do have chit chat here and a little bit of rambling, plus really important, potent teaching all mixed in together. We don't edit these. We just put them up there for you to enjoy. So enjoy. If you need polished, edited videos, this is not the channel for you, but we love you anyway. Let's see. Allison says, I first found you via replays on YouTube. I'm thankful I found you. I am glad you found us as well. I love the YouTube channel. I've had people suggest that I not do the free videos anymore. And I have cut back on a lot of the free stuff that I'm doing, but I do, just FYI announcement for everyone, I do plan to still keep doing this once a month class. This is like my anchor point, one free class. And I have cut back a lot on answering questions on the YouTube channel and in the free Facebook group, but I plan to still keep doing this because I just really enjoy putting like at least one free video on that channel, on the channel each month. So I plan to keep doing it. So stay tuned. Let's see. So this was our little list of announcements. Okay, a couple more quick announcements and then we'll get back to the book. If you would like more information and you need more support, oopsie, trying to manage the group here. Chat. We have one person who's having trouble joining. And they're probably not going to see that. They're not going to hear me say this until they watch the replay. But if you ever have trouble joining live and it's just not working for you, just leave and then try coming back again. That's the magical mystery of Zoom. Excuse me. So if you are wanting more information on how to work with me, about my group mentoring program or my books, or anything else, I invite you to go to my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And there is a spot where you can fill in your email address and you'll get a series of free gifts. It's an email series. I don't email you every hour. Oh my God. There's this like, I don't know, popular thing right now where when you sign up for an email list, you get like 20 emails a day from that company or that person. And oh, I find that very annoying. So I will never do that to you. You will get an email every couple of days in the new email series where you get the freebies, lots of freebies and free resources and everything. And then after that, once a week or once every other week. That's it. I'm only going to send something if I have something important to say. That's it. Also, I have 3 books. They can all be found on Amazon. The first one is called Darkness Disguised as Light. That's my origin story. That is how I got into doing this psychic protection work after 20 years of being a feel-good spiritual teacher who didn't want to look at any of the negative stuff. I was all positive vibes only. And some stuff happened. And anyway, the book is all the story of what went down. And it was crazy what I went through. And that book also includes a lesson at the end of each chapter. So there's plenty of psychic protection teaching in darkness disguised as light. My second book is like whammo, psychic protection handbook for sure. Second book is called the psychic protection. Sorry, I'm getting my words mixed up. My second book is the Psychic Attack Sourcebook. The Psychic Attack Sourcebook. And even if you're not currently under psychic attack or entity attack, that book is going to tell you everything you need to know just in case. It's like your safe driving handbook. Okay. Like you're not going to assume that you're going to get in a car accident, but just in case, you want to be prepared. And if you are going through something, you definitely need that book. It is loads of information. And then, of course, today we're here to talk about the dark side of spiritual healers, teachers, and light workers. And so let me ask you a question. Who has had a chance to read the book, The Dark Side of Spiritual Healers? Has anybody had a chance to read it? And those of you who are watching the replay, tell me if you've had a chance to read the book. And my question to you is, what was your biggest takeaway? Did you learn something new or did you have a reaction to it? I've had some people contact me who've read the book. Some of them are spiritual teachers themselves. And what they've said is that they plan to recommend this book to all of their clients because a lot of their clients will ask them for referrals, like, I want to go to this person for a session. Is this person safe? And one practitioner told me, I don't know every practitioner out there. I don't know whether to give them a thumbs up or a thumbs down when they ask for a referral on someone. And this book, The Dark Side of Spiritual Healers, gives people, it's a handbook to help people understand how to identify predatory or abusive behaviors, so that even if you don't have a referral from someone that you trust, even if, well, actually, I'll tell you the truth. I've known a lot of people who've gotten referrals from friends. Oh, go to so-and-so massage therapist. He's great. And the guy is a freaking sexual predator. So don't always assume that just because there's a referral that the person is safe. But anyway, so let me read some of your comments. And I mean it. I really want this to be a class that's very interactive. And I'm also talking to those of you who are watching the replay. Tell me if you've read the book or not, or even a part of it, or if you've like browsed through parts of it and what you thought, or if there was anything that really stood out to you. One of our live participants says, I've read it and I'm now rereading slowly. When I was editing the book, I noticed, because I read it from cover to cover a couple times to make sure it all made sense and there was no like major misspellings or anything. I noticed that I was able to read it in a couple of hours. So, and I'm not a fast reader. So those of you who are not fast readers, I want you to know that you don't need to be daunted by a big, thick book. This is actually not too thick of a book. How many pages is it? It's enough pages that it has a lot of information. It's 185 pages. But it's a very easy read. It's not complicated. It's definitely a quicker read than the Psychic Attack Sourcebook, which is very dense with information, although very interesting. Allison says, I bought all 3 of your books, but I'm just finishing the first one. I've also heard that the first one is a really quick read because I tend to have a very conversational writing style that's not too flowery or complicated. So as I'm sharing the story, people are able to read the story pretty quickly. So Just an FYI for people who haven't read that book yet. One of our participants says, I would recommend this one before the others. Oh, that's interesting. So the person who made that comment, I would love to hear why. Why? I mean, I can guess, but I want you to tell me, if you have a chance, come back and tell me why you would recommend this third book before the others. I'm sort of putting the pieces together and considering why. Catherine says, I want to get it for sure while waiting to read your third. Yeah. Okay. There's the rest of your comment. While waiting to read your third book, I felt like I needed to open book 2 to get a message. Holy moly. Now, remember, guys, book 2 is the Psychic Attack Sourcebook. That book is really intense and it's an important book. Okay. Don't let the fact that it's intense scare you away. It is like, you need this information. So Catherine says, holy moly, I opened it and it was page 83 and my eyes went to the second paragraph and OMG, so scary fitting to what I'm going through. I'm not going to pull it out and read whatever the passage was, but if anyone has that book and you're curious and you're watching, you can open it up and look and see what she read. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I think it's a great way to use that book to just like, what do I need to know right now? And open it up. The second book, the Psychic Attack Sourcebook. One of our participants who said that she would recommend this one before the others. She's answering my question and she says, I just think it's a good place to start, being aware and trusting your intuition. Yeah. And also, you know, people who read my books would tend to be spiritual seekers. People who are spiritual seekers often want some type of social connection as well, where they might be going to a classes, events. Let me make sure, managing all the comments here. Oh, I apologize. When I was reading all those comments, there was someone waiting to join. Welcome, Teresa. I was busy reading comments and I didn't see you. Welcome, welcome. So a lot of people who are spiritual seekers are going to different, at least one or more healers, or they're going to spiritual events. And it's really important to be able to navigate what is safe. There's a whole spectrum, really. There's like this end of the spectrum, like as far as things that are unsafe, there's like, here's the things, healers or spiritual events that are non-beneficial, not really a match for you. And then way over here on this end of the spectrum is like super dangerous. You're going to be like majorly psychically attacked entities, black magic, or maybe in physical danger as well, or so there's a whole spectrum where it could just be a little bit not your cup of tea, not beneficial for you, not really supportive for where you are right now, all the way to like mega dangerous. And so this third book that we're talking about today, The Dark Side of Spiritual Healers, is going to help you to develop that discernment. So you will be able to avoid those events that are not a match for you. All right. I'm the lady that wears all the different glasses. As soon as I turned 50 years old, I need my close-up, my reading glasses, my normal glasses. Thankfully, I don't need glasses when I drive. I had LASIK surgery years ago, but there's something about reading like this piece of paper that's over here and then reading the phone. I need two different glasses. So enjoy laughing at all my glasses and my antics. Okay, so we just answered the question, who has read the book and what was your biggest takeaway? And I can't wait to, even though I did say I won't be able to answer, I'm usually not able to answer a lot of questions on the YouTube channel. I am looking forward to seeing some of your replies. I encourage you to converse with each other. So I'll be interested to read what all of the replay watchers have to say about the book. What was your biggest takeaway? So I saw there was a comment come through, and then let's go on to the next part. Okay. Teresa says, I have your first book, have not finished reading it yet. Catherine says, finished book 1 and I lent it out, then read book 2 months ago and remembered it was so intense and validating. So when I mentioned I opened it the other day, I hadn't opened it since. So when I think Spirit had me take a random look and it was so perfect, but also reminded me how scary validating it was. Yeah. Those validations can really give you chills, but the validation is important, I think. All right. So let's take a minute. Let's get a drink. In just a minute, I'm going to open things up for you all who are here live to ask questions about anything related to the book. I won't be doing any free readings. So if you have like your own story and you want me to break down, do a psychic read on what happened and all of that, I do that in my academy, Spiritual Empowerment Academy. I do readings every single day, Monday through Friday, for members of my academy, which you can find at psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. So I won't be doing free readings, but today, for those of you who are here live, if you have any questions about the ideas, the concepts, the next part, in just a minute, I'm going to open it up for questions. Any questions that you have about any of the topics in the book, or even if you haven't read the book, you know the title is The Dark Side of Spiritual Healers, and we're talking about abusive spiritual healers. So even if you haven't even looked at the book at all, if you have any questions about abusive or toxic or predatory spiritual teachers or healers, I'll be addressing those in just a little bit. Okay, so I wanted to give you a heads up so you can think and have time to type your questions, because it takes a minute on Zoom for your questions to come through. So while we're waiting for that next part, let me take a minute and go over the title and the subtitle and also why I wrote this book. So let's break this down. So we've got a big, long title. Yes, it is very long. And I had a shorter title before that was just kind of more general. And I realized, number one, it's super important that it's very, very clear that we're not just talking about spiritual abuse, abuse of spiritual teachers and gurus. We're also talking about supernatural stuff in this book. I didn't want that to be a surprise for people. Like they think they're going to read a book about abusive gurus throughout history. And now we're talking about like black magic and all this other stuff. So let's start off with the main title, The Dark Side of Spiritual Healers, Teachers, and Lightworkers. So spiritual healers would be Reiki practitioners, energy healers, massage therapists, acupuncturists. We even have a story in here about a chiropractor. There are a lot of chiropractors that kind of have one foot in chiropractic and the other foot in like kind of esoteric practices in their professional practice. And I'm not trying to throw any of these areas under the bus. I want to be really clear. We're not saying that, for example, that every Reiki practitioner is evil. Okay. We're like, let's not jump to polarized thinking here. We're not saying that. Okay. But what I am saying is that there are way more predators in spiritual practice than most people would like to believe. So we have the dark side of spiritual healers, any kind of spiritual healer that you can think of, any type of spiritual healing. Teachers, spiritual teachers. So anybody who's teaching classes on any spiritual topic or psychic self-development, or people teaching energy healing, or how to ascend to 5D, or like, fill in the blank, any spiritual topic at all. Those who are in a teacher or mentor or leadership position. And then also, to complete the umbrella that we're talking about, light workers, the dark side of spiritual healers, teachers, and light workers. So light workers is just this big umbrella term of anyone who is working in this field of spirituality. Okay. So let's go into the subtitle: Abusive, Predatory, and Supernatural Behaviors Behind the Facade of Love and Light. So we already know that there are abusive people out there. You may have encountered a spiritual teacher who was very abusive to their students. I know we've heard, many of us have heard stories of gurus who, and even, there's some very prominent yoga teachers in the news who have been very abusive to their students. Again, we're not in any way saying that all yoga teachers, all yoga trainers are abusive, but there are some. We acknowledge there are some, and they've been very prominent in the news. There are even documentaries about some of these people. So abuse, and then predatory. Predatory implies that the person, the spiritual healer, teacher, or light worker, knows full well what they are doing. They are in a predatory position where they are on purpose targeting certain people, whether it's to take advantage of them for money, whether it's to take advantage of them to manipulate them into a sexual relationship, which I talked about this in last month's class, but if someone is in the position of spiritual mentor or healer, they should not be having sex with their clients. Like, let's just be really clear about that. There should not be a sexual relationship going on any more than you should be having sex with your therapist or your doctor or your lawyer. Those who are in a helping profession should not, you should not be crossing that professional boundary. Okay. But we're not just talking about sexual predation. There's all sorts of predatory behaviors. It can be that the person is on purpose targeting people so they can siphon life force energy, because they are misusing their spiritual abilities, their spiritual powers, in order to take energy from people instead of actually helping them. So, and supernatural behaviors. So here we get into some really creepy behaviors with practitioners, spiritual healers, teachers, etc., who are overtly or covertly practicing whatever flavor of black magic, so that they are causing harm to their clients, to control their clients, to keep their clients hooked in so they can get thousands of dollars, thousands and thousands of dollars. There's a common approach where they will tell the person, you have a curse on you, and I can remove the curse for $5,000. And then they get paid $5,000. And, oh, well, yeah, I took the $5,000, but there's more work that needs to be done. We need to do this other step, and that's going to be another $5,000. And you'll never be free of this unless I do this work for you. And it's this, like, it's not a sign of predation if a person charges for their services. Let's be really clear about that. But this whole scenario of like telling somebody something scary, and then it's this like huge amount of money to release them from a curse. That's a huge red flag. That's actually a very common scam approach of predatory spiritual workers. And some of them are working with supernatural, forces. And what they'll do is if the person says, no, I'm not going to work with you anymore, then the practitioner does black magic against their client. So now the client is being psychically attacked by their practitioner. In last month's class, so I'm not going to go too much down this rabbit hole any further, but in last month's class, I taught one section of this book. One section of this book is about the 3 types of abusive spiritual teachers. And let me just recap what those 3 types are. The 3 types of abusive spiritual teachers and healers. Number 1, the mental/emotional abuser. Number 2, the sexual predator. Number 3, the dark healer. The dark healer is like what I talked about, the person who will psychically attack their client for whatever reason. It's ridiculous. And I give example stories as well. So I will make sure to post the link to last month's class in the YouTube. In this YouTube replay, I will post that video in the description, so you'll be able to watch it if you missed it. Okay. And just real quick before I get to your questions and comments, because I see them coming through, why I wrote this book. Well, an interesting thing happened when I started working in the field of psychic protection, really back in 2016. After being a spiritual teacher for a few decades. And when I started to work more directly in the field of psychic protection, something really interesting started to happen. I started to attract a lot of clients who not just were having psychic protection issues, but they were trying to escape from abusive spiritual teachers or healers. And at the time, I was living in the Kansas City area. And prior to that, I was aware that there were sexual predators in our spiritual community. And I had tried to work with assisting with that issue. And I didn't get very far because communities tend to protect sexual predators and other kinds of predators. But I was aware of that issue. But I really was so shocked when I found out the level of other kinds of predators in the spiritual community in Kansas City. But I'm not trying to throw Kansas City under the bus because the year before I moved away, I traveled all around the Midwest on a tour and went to all these different psychic fairs and met people from all different communities. And it was very obvious that there were just as many predators in all those other Midwest cities. And then I moved to Arizona, and and I've had a lot of encounters with Arizona and also California people as well. Let me just say, there's tons of predators out this way as well. It's everywhere. And then, of course, over the years, through my online practice, I work with people all over the world. So there are people in many other countries that I've worked with who have had to escape from really nasty predatory spiritual teachers. So this issue is everywhere. And I felt like I needed to get this information out there as a handbook, hopefully to help people avoid these issues before they happen. But, sometimes we end up, because predators are so slippery, even when we have the right information, these predators are so slippery, they can still lure us in a little bit. But with the information in this book, you will recognize more quickly than you would before the red flags, and you'll have tips on how to get out if you're already in the situation. So that is why I wrote this book. I do encourage anybody to share this book with your friends, because the whole idea is Well, let me just back up and say, as I mentioned before, I tried to help with the issue of sexual predators in my community when I lived in Kansas City, and that did not work at all. Like the predators, all they do is they just get better at hiding. And the community then protects the predators. And it's not just sexual predators, but any kind of predators. Because since I've moved to Arizona, I've tried to speak up about other kinds of predatory things. And like the community doesn't want to hear it. So my approach is if I can help the people who would be victimized before the victimization ever happens, so that they have that information and then they don't get sucked in. Or hopefully this information will help you heal if you were a victim of a predatory spiritual mentor. Hopefully this book will help you feel heard and understood. Okay. So please share this book because of that, because communities tend to support predators, and predators are going to keep being predators because they're just assholes like that. But the more we can get this information out there, the more people who have this book, the more people will have this information, and then the fewer people will be available for these jerkwad predators, right? There will be fewer people available for the nonsense because people will know better. Okay, so let's see. Comments and questions. Thank you for being here, everybody. Let's see. Catherine says, I'm sorry I'm late. I was lagging with Zoom. I was having lagging with Zoom. Well, I'm glad that you're here. As I was telling my Academy students earlier today, I don't mind if people are late. If you can get here on time, great. But not everybody can get here on time, and I'm just happy to see you when you can get here. And I'm sorry that Zoom was being a jerk. One of our participants says, it brought to mind the many times I had an icky feeling and talked myself out of it. I listen to myself now. Reading your comment makes me think about I share some personal stories in the book, and the personal stories are 100% true. They're not composites. They are things that happened to me. So I feel like I can share them because they're my stories. And there was a massage therapist that came highly recommended. All the women in the community raved about this guy, said he was wonderful. And this guy, it turned out I got a massage from him. It was so gross. And you'll have to read the book to see that story. But I learned that same lesson as well, that I now, if I have a bad feeling or an icky feeling about someone, a person or an event or whatever, I listen, even if everybody else is like, oh no, it's fine. Everything's fine. Well, for whatever reason, they're not seeing or sensing what you're sensing. So trust your gut. Catherine says, FYI, first two books, so good and easy to read. Yes, you guys, even though I said the second book is intense, it's not a hard read. It's the kind of book that you're going to want your Post-it flags, these little Post-it flags, and your highlighter, making notes in it. And it's that kind of book, but it's easy to read. Catherine says, I've recommended you to my therapist and many people that I was so excited to discover you. And lucky for your books. I need number 3 now. Yes. I want to just, before I read the rest of the comments, I want to just make a little aside from my own perspective. So here I am. I live out in the Arizona desert. I'm in nature. I'm like doing this spiritual work online, writing these books, getting these insights and sharing my intuitive insights and my personal insights, professional insights, I have felt for many years like I'm kind of like shouting into the abyss, like, hey, everyone, this is really unsafe. Like I'm talking about spiritual predators or false light entities or the dangers of channeling or whatever. This stuff that I'm talking about. And I feel like I'm about 10 years before the rest of the world is ready to hear this stuff. So I just want to say I'm so grateful to all of you who are here live and those of you watching the replay. I'm so grateful that there are people who are also waking up to this other level of truths that a lot of the spiritual communities just aren't there yet. I mean, that's okay. People are wherever they're supposed to be. But I have often felt like I'm shouting into the abyss, hello, 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 hello. Is anyone hearing me? And I'm just so grateful when there are people um, who are helped by the messages that I'm sharing. And as an intuitive, as a psychic who sees forward in my timeline and other people's timelines, I every time I check about this work and my own timeline and all of that, I see that you know, this the stuff that I teach is pretty pioneering. And it's going to be a good 10 years before like more people really before more of the majority of the spiritual community starts to wake up to all of this. But you can help by, you know, sharing this information with friends. So thank you for being here. Thank you for, you know, being as insightful as you are, for being stubborn enough to question the status quo. One of our participants says, question, for teachers who don't set up protection before spiritual work, do we set up protection ourselves before meeting with them? Oh, I have so many emotions and thoughts about that. Okay. I will start off by saying I don't have an ultimate answer to that. It's gonna be up to you to decide what's best for you. But there's two avenues. The first is, in some ways, I feel like I personally wouldn't want to go to a spiritual teacher or healer who doesn't set up protection before they do spiritual work. Like, I wouldn't want to go to somebody like that. That's me personally. I've got really tight guidelines, partly because I work with clients. And if I go to a healer who leeches a bunch of their cooties onto me and then I pass that on to my clients, I'm going to be pretty upset. And so I will not go to a teacher or a healer. I won't go to an event where they don't set, well, I have gone to events where they haven't set up protection. I've taken part in psychic fairs that were very messy and I had to do a lot of clearing afterwards. So that's one approach, is to have an all or nothing. Like if this person does not have training in protection, I don't want to go see them. But some people might not want to be that strict about it. For example, if somebody is really wanting to go have a past life regression and they don't know how to do it themselves and they really want to go work with a practitioner, they really feel drawn to do this, but they can't find any practitioner who does past life regressions in their area. Let's say they want to do it in person, go to the person's place of business and have the session in person. They just haven't found anyone who understands protection, who does that work. Then that person might make a choice like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and set up my own protection. What I recommend for the students in my academy is that you there's a lot of protocols that I teach for protection, but whatever your protocols are, you set up your protocols for protection. You send that energy forward in time to the session, to before, during, and after the session, so that you're fully protected. For those who are like, I don't know how to do that. Now, this person is in my academy, and we go over, like, we talk about how to do that. But if you're wanting guidance on that, join the academy, apply for the academy. So that's what I would recommend, is definitely set up your own protection. Don't assume that you're just going to be fine. I have had a few experiences where, like, I talk about a story, I share a story in the book about how I went to an acupuncturist. I had been to acupuncturists for years, great experiences every time, until I went to this one, and I got psychically attacked by something that was attached to him. And what I found was that even though I had my usual protections set up, my energy was vulnerable when I was on that treatment table. And so my own protections just weren't as powerful, because when you are in the position of receiving a treatment from someone, there is explicit or implicit consent given that they have access to your energy. And once I had that experience with that acupuncturist a couple years ago, I'm sorry to say I have not been to a single healer since then, because that experience taught me that even if I have my own protections, I've got pretty powerful protections set up, but there's something about that consent that's given for them to access your energy during a treatment. It made me too vulnerable for that person's entity to attach onto me. Now, I was able to remove it, and it was mostly removed by the end of that day and fully removed by the next morning. So there were no issues, long-term issues, but thankfully I had the skills to be able to remove it. If not, that thing would have been attached to me for years. If I had just been a regular muggle who didn't know how to do my own energy healing, I would have been in trouble. So, like I started off saying, there's no definitive answer to this. I'm not going to say you should always do it this way or this way. I think it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. So take what resonates and leave the rest. Okay. Great question, though. Great question. I want to give a little mini rant before I go on to the next person. So many of my students over the years have told me that from working with me, they know to ask questions of a potential practitioner. They're thinking of working with someone, so they ask the practitioner or the teacher, what do you do to establish protection during your events? Or how do you protect the space? How do you cleanse the space before I come in for a session or whatever? And so many of my students have said that the practitioner will just give them a blank gaze, like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like a blank stare, like, I don't know. And that, oh my gosh, that is just, I don't know. I keep thinking my next book needs to be like a training manual for healers, but I need a break from writing right now while I focus on some other things. But there needs to be a training manual for healers, especially for new healers and teachers who are setting up their business, their healing business, without proper training, because their mentors were never properly trained and their mentors were never properly trained. So you all who are here live and you all who are watching the replay of this, you are likely way more knowledgeable about spiritual protection than most of your healers or teachers. And that's just a fact, unfortunately. But thank goodness, at least you have that knowledge. All right. Teresa says, my Reiki teacher allowed a couple to psychically attack me during a class I paid for. Totally messed me up and scared me as well with what I experienced for months after. Several times a day, they attacked my heart and other things. My teacher told me to deal with it. I feel like angry tears want to come out of my eyes from reading that. And so sorry that happened to you. And it's so common. And all just FYI for everyone else, also what's common is when the Reiki teacher psychically attacks the student. Like all these crazy things that we wouldn't even imagine. Like Teresa, would you have even imagined that your teacher would allow that? Or that that would even happen in a Reiki class? Of course not. I think we would all assume that a Reiki class is a safe space. And if you were to say that it's not a safe space, all the Reiki people would be up in arms, like, of course it's a safe space. Reiki is safe. Well, Reiki itself is safe, but there are people that are not safe. Sorry that happened to you. So sorry. Hope you're doing better now. Shame on that couple and shame on that teacher. And I mean that. Oh my God. Teresa says, Maya, thank you for being here for us and teaching us. You're welcome. And thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Catherine says, I've been abused by mental health therapists in different ways, and even a terrifying experience where he got me on my bed and his hands on me. Terrifying. And a palm reader in a house type setting, like they have, told me I needed to pay like almost $200 to clear my curse. Oh no. They get you in there for a $10 reading and then they scare you to give a lot more. Yeah, so I want to clarify, there's nothing, just clarifying for everybody watching this, there's nothing wrong with charging $200 for a service, especially if it's, in my opinion, so especially if it's something that's dangerous work, like clearing out a curse. Like if they're genuinely going to do that, to say it costs a couple $100, because there is some danger to that work. But this whole approach of like the switch and bait, which is what it sounds like you're talking about, they charge $10 for a reading and then they try to scare you with this scary information to try to get some money. That's a big red flag. Big red flag. The whole approach should be to help empower you. To help empower you. Teresa says, Maya, I have not read your latest book, but does it cover on how to handle when a person you go to for a reading and they enter your home through astral travel? I don't specifically talk about how to stop someone from astral traveling into your home, but there are various, what do I want to call it? References to non-consensual astral travel into your space. So we definitely talk about that in different ways, whether it's a practitioner that you worked with, a shaman, or whatever, when they will then later astral travel, even if they've never been into your home, they will later astral travel to wherever you're at to mess with your energy or to have astral sex, non-consensual astral sex, all sorts of things, all sorts of nonsense, consent violations, etc. There is a process that I talk about in the group, in the book. Most of the book is information about helping you understand all of these red flags. And there are some tips on how to approach things if you have been abused or if you're in one of those situations. But as far as the psychic protection, most of that would be in my second book, the Psychic Attack Sourcebook. But the third book, The Dark Side of Spiritual Healers, does have one process in it for revoking consent. So if you've ever given explicit or implicit consent to a healer or a spiritual teacher or mentor that says that they can access you astrally or spiritually, etc. There's a process that I teach on how to revoke that so they can no longer access you. And she says, I was shocked when I saw this guy come into my room in a ghost-like image of him. Girl, you'd be surprised how common that is. It's shocking, isn't it? And she says, I yelled at him and told him to get out. He was not welcome, and his image zoomed out of my bedroom window. That was a good approach. So literally invoking your own power and making a strong declaration of your own boundaries verbally and energetically, that was exactly the right thing to do. You don't even have to have a special spell or special occult knowledge. What you did, literally shouting at him and setting that boundary, look at how powerful you were. You made him leave. Our emotions and our words are powerful energetically, and you did it. Good job. Another one of our participants says, thank you for doing these free videos, Maya. It's an important service to the community. I think so too. Yep. Teresa says, Maya, would it be improper to give a psychic person a hug? I learned the hard way that I'm an empath. I have been told by these people that when I give the person a hug, thanking them for a reading, they feel better physically and their readings are better that day after I leave. Would that be a form of psychic attack? I wouldn't call it a psychic attack. I do think that there is an unintentional energy exchange that's happening. And it'll be up to you to decide if you want that energy exchange to happen or not. If naturally you share energy as an empath when you hug people, you can decide on a case-by-case basis if you want to give someone a hug or not. But you're not causing them harm. And it's not black magic or sending them nasty thoughts. It's just simply giving them a hug. I would call it an energy exchange. One of our participants says, definitely gotten the blank gaze, the blank stare before, or told you should just vibrate higher in substitution for protection. So those are the people, oh my gosh, I'm just so tempted to go on a rant, but people who say that vibrating higher will protect you are not informed. That's my nice way of saying it. They're not informed. They don't have as much information as you do. And it is what it is. There are a lot of people in practitioner positions where you might be a customer, client, and you know a lot more about psychic protection than they do. If they say just vibrate higher, being at a high vibration will protect you, they have their knowledge is aligned with what's popular in New Age right now, but not what's correct. Yeah. Okay. So we've got a little bit more time. Thank you so much for all those great questions and comments. I love all the interaction. Okay. Where's my other glasses? Let's see what we have time for. Okay, we're going to go over one more section and then we'll wrap it up for today. In chapter 2 of The Dark Side of Spiritual Healers, I talk about a lot of today's popular spiritual teachings. A lot of today's popular spiritual teachings that contribute to abuse and predation? So I'm going to really make you think right now before giving you the answers. Off the top of your head, can you think of any of today's popular spiritual practices or teachings that actually encourage or contribute to abuse or predatory behavior in spiritual communities? I want you to think about this and share in the chat. And while you're thinking about that, I'm going to look up my page. Okay. Have any comments? Okay. I want you to think about any popular spiritual teachings that contribute to abuse or predation. And if you're watching the replay, share in the comments. Okay. While we're waiting for comments to come through, I'm going to give you one quick blurb of information, and then I'm going to go to my book and give you some of the answers to my question. All right. So if you have been dealing with psychic protection issues, whether it's black magic, entity, interference, ancestral curse, or even if you have a lot of questions about what is false light entities, what is authentic and genuine, and all these spiritual teachings that you're studying, how to develop the discernment about those things, and how to get free from psychic attack, entity interference, black magic, ancestral curses, and even if you're dealing with supernatural aspects of an abusive spiritual mentor, how to detangle from that, then I highly encourage you to fill out an application for Spiritual Empowerment Academy. You don't have to feel like you're absolutely ready to join today or anything like that, but I would just love to read your application and get to know you better. In order to submit the application, you don't have to officially sign up. You don't have to pay. You can just do the application. And here's where you find that. Go to psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, click on Work with Maya, and then you'll see it. You'll be led to the information about the Academy. You'll see you'll be led to a page that has lots of information on what the Academy is all about. So you'll be fully informed. But I encourage you to click on the apply button, and filling out the application is going to help you to gain a lot more clarity on your situation. So at the very least, it's going to help you to gain more clarity for yourself. And then go ahead and submit it. I just want to get to know you better and what's going on with you. And then you can also choose to complete the rest of the steps and fully join if you qualify for the program. But the big thing that I want to encourage you to do is to just simply fill out the application so I can know that you're out there and support you in whatever way I can. Okay, so we have a comment that came through, comment or two to answer the question. All right, so they want me to say the question again. What popular spiritual teachings contribute to abuse and predatory behaviors? It's a tough question, but I'm making you think. I will give you some answers in a second here. Okay, Catherine says, of course, the thing you said that they do, that if you just vibrate higher, you will be all better. It's like the toxic positivity. Yes, add toxic positivity, positive vibes only. Like actually your comment also kind of implies the victim shaming kind of stuff of like, well, if you had any kind of negative spiritual experience, you probably were vibrating low. It's your fault. You should have just vibrated higher. Like, that's a shitty thing to say to someone who needs help, right? I feel very ranty tonight, so sorry for yelling at the camera. Catherine also says, when I've talked to a healer and I said I have such a problem, and suffering for the horror of child abuse and rape that seems to be too common. She told me, like many do, that it must be something in me that is the problem. What? Anyone should be disturbed by such things. Yeah, that is an example of spiritual people having their head up their own asshole. Okay. I mean, what she said to you, I hear that. So it's such a prevalent belief, and it is insane. I believe it's a program. There are certain really ridiculous and insane programs that are programmed into New Age and spirituality that are just so harmful and so just disconnected from empathy, compassion, and reality. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that example. It's a really important one. Okay. I feel all fired up from reading some of these, but this is good. It's good to be fired up because when we don't get fired up, we become too complacent, and this makes me think of another spiritual teaching, which is just that you should be positive, just that like everything's good, just be chilled out all the time, don't let anything get to you. And I've beaten myself up about this sometimes where I'm like, well, I should be more easygoing and I should not get upset about these things going on in the spiritual world. I should just let things be. And it's like, but then if we're like that, then we're complacent about the issues. So I think we should get stirred up about some of these issues, right? So I'm going to touch on, I'm not going to read all of this. It would be like pages and pages, but I'm going to touch on some of these, and you will need to get the book to read the whole section. This is page 49, chapter 2. How to identify dysfunctional spiritual teachings. And the dysfunctional spiritual teachings, the idea is that these are teachings or practices that encourage abusive, toxic, and predatory behaviors and support predatory behaviors. So the first one is the ultra spiritual persona. Have you ever met a spiritual teacher who talks in a super soft voice or uses this voice of authority that like, I am helping the whole planet ascend to 5D and I have the special codes and I am the reincarnation of so and so, so and so, and they say that they are an ascended being, a higher ascended being. It's this ultra spiritual persona. But a lot of times then like you see them behind the curtain, you see them behind the scenes, and they're a total asshole. They're not talking in a soft voice. They're not being ultra spiritual. They're being a jerk. And usually they're trying to hide something. And many, many years ago, I used to think that as a spiritual teacher, I was supposed to speak in a soft voice. I found a video of mine from like 15 years ago, and I laughed so hard. I was like, oh my God, that is so cringy. Cringy. I was talking in this soft voice. Hi, I'm Maya Zahira, blah, blah, blah. So ridiculous. But I was doing it because that was what my mentors taught me to do. Like that's the norm. Okay. We're taught to be inauthentic. So with me, what you see is what you get. I'm going to be who I am. I'm going to talk in a normal voice, no fake, soft spiritual voice coming from Maya. Next on the list of dysfunctional spiritual teaching, non-resistance and acceptance of what is. So you're supposed to just accept everything in the universe. Don't resist anything, just surrender. So this means that even atrocities, like some of you commented about a little while ago, we're not supposed to have any like anger or resistance or emotion about any of that. We're supposed to just surrender and just be filled with love. Well, when we do that, guess what happens? All of that is allowed to continue to happen into infinity, right? But let's say there's a spiritual teacher who teaches this non-resistance, surrender, and that spiritual teacher is an overt abuser. They are abusing their followers. But when someone tries to speak up about it, the spiritual teacher will use their own teachings to shut the whistleblower down. And all of their followers will follow suit and also shut the whistleblower down and say, oh, you're being so unspiritual. You're supposed to surrender to what is, acceptance of what is, non-resistance. And that also guides us to misguided forgiveness. You're supposed to forgive everyone. I know when I was attempting to assist with some sexual predators in my spiritual community many years ago, I was told by several people in leadership positions in my spiritual community that I should just that myself and the rest of the women that I was trying to assist. There was myself and some other leaders. We were trying to assist some people who'd been abused. We were told across the board, don't be so hurtful and hateful. You need to leave the past in the past. Open your heart and just forgive. These people, the predators, need to be forgiven. We need to forgive them. And guess what? Years later, those predators are still abusing people. In the one situation, it was an older gentleman, I don't want to call him a gentleman, an older man abusing young women. And the forgiveness did not help at all. All it did was allow the dude to keep doing what he was doing. Next toxic spiritual practice is disconnection from your physical body. Any kind of spiritual practice that teaches you to be disembodied from your physical body, to like leave your body and go explore the outer realms. I'm not saying that you can't explore higher realms, but you have to stay rooted in your body, because if there's a teacher who's teaching you to leave your body or disconnect or disembody from yourself, it's very easy for that teacher, if they are not a person of integrity, it's very easy for them to hook in and do all sorts of things to you because you're not even home in your own vessel. I'll read one more and then we'll read comments and then we'll wrap up for tonight. Pep rally spirituality. Have you ever been to a spiritual event where they had music playing or drums and they were encouraging everybody to get up and dance and go into a frenzy and like, oh, everything's great. And you go into this bliss state. When they get you into this blissed out pep rally, everybody's yelling and screaming and dancing around and hopping up and down state, you become disembodied and you just become like just so not centered. When you're in that state, it's a lot easier to engage and to hook you into the situations that we would normally see as cult-like situations. When they get you into that frothing frenzy, that's on purpose. It's to get you into that emotional state so you are more easily malleable. Okay. And there are several others, but we don't have time to go through them. You will have to get this book. It's called The Dark Side of Spiritual Healers, Teachers, and Lightworkers. But on Amazon, you can just type in The Dark Side of Spiritual Healers and you will find it. Let me read the rest of your comments and then we will wrap it up for tonight. This was a really fun class. Thank you, everybody. Despite the fact that the topic is a really serious topic, it's good to connect with all of you. Okay, where are we on comments? Trying to find out where the new comments are. Okay. Okay, sorry, I had to find where we had a lot of new comments. That's great. Catherine says, yes, 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 thank you. I'm glad you're all fired up, LOL. Yeah, if I was super chill about all of this, I would not have written that third book. So thank goodness I get my undies in a bundle. Catherine says, yes, fake and showy turns me off. When I talk about you, I always say that I love that you're so down to earth and natural, and I love that. Yeah, and you know what? That is the reason why I'm not very popular on YouTube, but I am not willing to put on a fake persona. I don't believe in that. And so it's why my channel is so tiny, but I absolutely believe in authenticity and being real and not fake. There's way too much fake spirituality out there. And what you see is what you get with me. So I'm glad you're here. And a shout out to all the people who are on my YouTube channel. I love you. One of our participants says, the other popular advice for protection is to put yourself into a white light bubble. However, based on Maya's prior teachings, the white light may attract false light or dark forces. That's true. And also, just a simple bubble isn't going to be, it's not strong enough to protect you from a major attack. It's just way too kindergarten level to deal with if there's a mega attack coming at you. Like, that is just like not going to do it. It's not going to be enough. Teresa says, last year I went for a Reiki session and the person that worked on me was also a shaman. They decided to help me by putting a block around me so nobody could affect me, so my energy could balance. They told me it would block both good and bad. I don't like that. Well, shortly after my appointment with her, I got hurt. I got a head injury. What the heck? Why would they do this? Yeah, it sounds like the person didn't really know what they were doing, unfortunately. After 9/11, my son was going to a class for kids, and the woman told my son to send his spirit guides to New York because he didn't need them, and the people that died needed his spirit guides. I'm sorry, but that's messed up. I don't agree with that at all. Catherine says, I agree. And I've heard that nonsense so many times about being in surrender. And then your higher vibration will make all the bad and scary. And OMG, they say we control our entire reality. OMG, like all the abuse from neighbors and seeing animal abuse and crying dogs suffering outside is what I created. BS. I even get mad at videos on YouTube when spiritual people are talking this nonsense. Yeah, I get annoyed too. I tend to shut it off. Teresa says, Maya, will you put the book in Audible? I plan on getting your other books with Audible. Yeah, so I will. I promise I will eventually put this book on Audible. It actually costs, let's see, my second book cost me about $700 to get it on Audible. So it is an investment that I have to make. I have to save up the money to do it, to get it up. I mean, I won't explain all the nuts and bolts, but it costs money. And it is something that I do. I believe that it's important so that those who are sight impaired or for whatever other reason would rather listen to it instead of read it, but just be patient with me. I don't think that I'm going to have it done this year, 2024. My goal is to work on it in 2025, but who knows? I would welcome any benevolent energy being sent my way for supportive energy that allows me to do this work with more support. In other words, to have the ability to put the book on Audible so that more people can be helped. So I welcome any positive vibes for that. I know that it will get done, but just be patient, one step at a time. Thank you for asking about that. One of our participants says, I hope everyone who is searching into spiritual protection issues is guided or even stumbles upon this video. I hope so too. Teresa says, I'm just a slow reader. I totally understand. I'm kind of a slow reader too. FYI, the third book is probably the easiest, I think is the easiest book to read even for slow readers. So just to give you a little bit of encouragement, or wait until next year and it'll come out. Or you can get the book and then listen to it later, whatever works for you. Okay. And Teresa says, thank you, Maya. Your work is greatly appreciated. Thank you. I appreciate you as well. Catherine says, big thank you for all you are doing. So much appreciate you. I appreciate you guys too. I'm getting tears in my eyes. Okay, I think we are all done. Just a quick wrap up. Anybody who would like to stay connected, if you're watching the replay, I invite you to join the free Facebook group, which is Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group. But we only let people into that group, the Facebook group, who answer all 3 membership questions and who have an actual profile picture, because this is a safe space in our Facebook group. We don't just let anybody crazy, you know, robot like bots and fake profiles and stuff like that. We don't let any of that in. So make sure that if you are wanting to join the Facebook group, that you do take a minute. Like if you really do want to join the Facebook group, Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group, take the 2 minutes to answer the questions. Otherwise, we think you don't really want to be in the group if you can't bother to answer the questions, and that's totally fine. Okay. But if you would like some continued free support, feel free to join the Facebook group. And then also there's the YouTube channel. Lots of people love to binge watch on there. That's also called Psychic Protection Sanctuary. And then if you would like to work with me directly, the only way to work with me directly right now is to join Spiritual Empowerment Academy. And even if you feel like you can't join yet, because everybody has different situations, I encourage you to fill out the application. I haven't been saying this in the past, but I feel guided now that I encourage you to still fill out the application, because I just want to know that you're out there. I pray every morning. I ask for my angels to go out into the world and to connect with anybody who needs help, to help that person to find the books or the free resources or the academy. And if they need higher level work, more intense assistance, then I pray that the way will be open to that person to enable them to be able to access the academy as a resource. So I pray for you every day. And I would love to know that you're out there. I would love to know who you are. And I can do that. I can know who you are if you will fill out the application so I can just see you and see your information. We've got a couple more comments. Catherine says, big thank you for all you are doing. So much appreciate you. Teresa says, oh, Maya, I have a mama chicken with her baby chick as my picture. Oh, if you're already in the group, you're fine. I have a wonderful assistant who personally sits with each profile and tunes in intuitively to discern, is this an okay person to let into the group or not? So if you're already in the group, and you are, because you're here because you got the link for the Zoom class, so you're okay. You are okay. But for new people joining, right, we need to know that you're a real profile wanting to join the Facebook group. Yeah, and Catherine, it's okay. If you're already in the Facebook group, you're already past the magical gateway, okay? You're fine. Don't worry, you guys. It's okay. I'm glad you brought it up. Okay, we're all set for tonight. I have a few really interesting ideas for classes coming up next month and the month after, but I'm going to wait to announce what those topics are. They're going to be super interesting, totally different than this book topic. We're going to go into some other topics just to mix it up a little bit. And just a reminder that this class happens every month, and the Zoom link is only available to the people in the free Facebook group. So if you want to join live, you got to join the Facebook group in order to get the Zoom link. And the class takes place, the second Tuesday of the month at 5:30 Pacific. So adjust to your time zone. If you don't want to join the Facebook group, if you're watching the replay somewhere, you can just continue to enjoy the replay every month, which I will always post on the YouTube channel. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. And Catherine wants to know, will I get to watch the first part of the replay that I missed? Yes, you will. It'll be posted by tomorrow in the Facebook group and on the YouTube channel, so you can watch it. Okay. And it will be posted indefinitely. I won't be taking it down. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great evening. As always, I'm sending you lots of love. Until next time.